to your chairs, find a spot. I said this last week. We had our annual partners meeting. There is lots of room in first service still. So we know second service is the easier one to get to, but there is lots of room in first service. So if you're like, man, this place is just too full, then I would encourage you, come to first. Come to first. If you like a seat between you and the other person, come to first. Yep. Go ahead and make your way on in. Real quick, while people are coming through still, the Easter event, I know I talked about it up on the screen, but I want to just push one more time too. This event is just exploding. We have, I didn't look Saturday, but Friday afternoon, we had over 1,000 people pre-registered already. So, yeah, and we still have like 3 weeks left. So we're going to hit max capacity for this event. And this is why, this is one of the reasons why we did what we did. Last year, our color run was incredible. I mean, it was great. There was nothing wrong with it at all. We had an amazing turnout, amazing success. Touched a lot of people and blessed a lot of people in our city to be able to give something like that to the city. So it was great. But sometimes, letting go of something that's really good to, where God takes you, and this is an opportunity for expanded influence in the city, to bless the city, to bless people, to create opportunity for people to encounter Jesus, to be able to work alongside of the city. When the city asks you to do something, man, the church should be saying, what do you want? How high do you want us to jump? Period, The church should always be on the forefront of bringing about change in the community. And so when the city asks us this, it was a no-brainer. And so this is why we're doing what we're doing, because we believe that what can happen here is going to be reduplicated not just in our church, but the church in Clovis, and even in Fresno too eventually, where churches will come together with the city. Churches will come together with other organizations and do what we do best and bring the best of what we have to the table. And that means more people will be able to be blessed and touched by that, because you're willing to let go of a little something. So it should be a tremendous, tremendous day. But man, oh man, I'm like, whoo, we got to have our people. We need our people to show up. And for the past, every year we've done this event, you guys have always showed up. Teenagers, we need you guys running that course and loving on these kids as they're running through. And we need parents making cotton candy and popcorn and all that stuff. I mean, everything and anything and everything. We need you. So if you get a chance, sign up on the form on the back on the TV cart, so we know who is interested in being able to be there. Sound good? Good. All right. So this morning, plans got changed on us a little bit. It's like you just kind of follow the Lord. I kind of knew in my gut it was going to happen this way. I was like, I just kind of feel it, but I resisted it to some sense until the final moment. I have a word. I have the you know how hard it is to make a word, spend all week in the word and have it ready, and just feel like God says not now. Oh man, come on. Touche. So this is one of those moments. It was today. The Philippine team is going to come up and share a little bit, and they're going to share about what God was doing in them and through them in the Philippines, and it's powerful. It's great to hear what God is doing, and they're going to take a little bit of what happened in the Philippines and give us opportunity to respond, and give us an opportunity to experience a little bit of the Philippines, a little bit of Filipino faith here in Clovis today. And so it's one of those moments where you say, okay, I can't do justice to either of these things if we try to just check boxes. And our faith has got to be more than that. We always have to be willing to not just check a box. I went to church today, check a box, and I can go back to the rest of my week. It's never about checking boxes. It's about walking in that obedience to what Jesus wants for us. Because what he wants for us is good, and what they have today is good. And so we want to make sure we have time for them too. So turn your eyes to the screen. There's going to be a video that's going to come up, and then Brian Stotts, our missions director, and the Filipino team is going to come up and share, and then we get a chance to be able to respond.
Good morning. So, um, we've been back for almost 2 weeks, 2 weeks tomorrow, and the culture shock for us has been coming back. Um, and we just really wanted to be able to testify, and thanks to Jason that he's allowed us to speak and just share and testify to all the major awesome things that God did while we were in the Philippines, confirming his word with signs, wonders, and miracles. Every single one of us could probably talk for 2 or 3 hours. We had a team of 22, but us four represented ACC, and so I'm gonna let each of them speak, and then I'll finish up sharing opportunity that we have as a church to go back on another team next year.
All right, so I got a couple things that I would like to share. So, as you guys saw, there was these what we would call crusades at nighttime. They basically look like a big concert, and so what we would do with these is when we would arrive in these barangays, which is their term for village, we would arrive there and walk all out and invite people from their houses. We would learn how to invite them in their language, and so many of them would end up coming. And so we'd have these concerts where there's kids and we'd dance with the kids, lots of music, and then we would have drama because the Filipinos love drama. They're really drawn in by drama. So we did that, and then we would have someone present the gospel message, and they would ask for an altar call. And so all of these Filipinos got to hear and experience the gospel message and then choose whether they wanted to accept or not. And most of them did. 99% of them did, and we're working on the other 1%. But so we did that, and then one of the things I really loved while we were there is it doesn't do us that much good. It does do a little good, and it does help, but it doesn't do us that much good if we were to come into these barangays, like us, the Americans, and be like, you got Jesus, bam, peace out. We're gonna go to the next barangay. So that's not what CMC, that's not what we were trying to do. So what we did is the next day, so let me start. The night before, we would hand them what's called the Book of Hope after they would come up to receive prayer. And they would fill this out, and basically this would tell them what it means to be a child of God, what it means to be in the family of Christ and to have just accepted him. And they would fill this out and bring it back the next day where at follow-up. And at follow-up, they would turn this in, and we would give them a Bible and connect them to a Bible study. So not only would they experience Jesus, but they're connected to a place where they can grow and get to know him more. And then they also get connected to a local pastor who will keep checking up and making sure that they're continuing to grow in their relationship with Christ. So that was a really cool thing. And then we also, all of us will say a couple, but we saw so many healings. And Pastor Jason was saying earlier that a lot of times we think that we don't see a lot of healings here. And what my side would be is that we don't pray for that many things here. I know for me, that's never, and it's not a good thing. That's never the first thing I think of. That's usually a last resort here. Well, over there, that was our first resort for everything. Everything we prayed daily. Just you couldn't even count the amount of prayers that we were praying. So we would have these prayer lines and pray for these people. Where one for me that was super super cool was there was a lady that came up and she was holding her arm, saying that she couldn't move it because she had dislocated her shoulder. So she said that it was in pain, and I laid hands and I prayed for her, and she told me that God took away the pain, but she still wasn't able to move it. It still wasn't wanting to move. So I prayed again in Jesus' name, and she was flinging it all over the place. And then later after church, we were walking out, and she comes running up to shake my hand, and she slings that arm out to shake my hand and just say thank you. She was so excited, and it really happens. We saw back pain, headaches, blind eyes. We saw like cuts, visible cuts on a child's hand that were completely removed and just perfect skin healed over. So it was, there's so much that you guys will get to hear more. And then one more thing that I would just like to hit on was the last day we were there, the Filipino pastor that was overseeing everything, his name was Pastor Jill, and he was speaking to us at a pastor's conference and basically telling us that us as Christians, that our main focus, our main job should be the lost and bringing the lost into a loving relationship with Christ. And this isn't to discourage you. He wasn't trying to discourage us, but what he asked us basically is, if you as a Christian are not constantly trying to bring non-Christians into the Christian family, into a loving relationship with Christ, then what are you doing? Like, what is the point of you being a Christian? Because that is what Jesus tells us in the Bible. That's who he was concerned with, obviously, because we were the lost, and he was concerned with bringing us into his family. So that should be our concern too, our number one concern. So that's just something to think about, and it should be really encouraging, because it should just place a fire inside you to go get more people. I mean, we're packed in here, and that's a really good thing, but we should maybe have 3 services or have to go into another building. Let's just, all of us, bring more people in. That should be our main focus on a day-to-day basis. So I'll hand it over to Tyler now.
Okay, so a few of my favorite things were, well, the first one was going to do school ministry. I mean, if you went to any school, basically, in the United States and said, hey, I want to tell your students about Jesus, they'd slam the door and say, get away, because that's not allowed. But there we say, hey, we want to tell you kids about Jesus. And they said, okay. They stop every single class. They'll sit and wait, and then once you're done, they'll resume class. But they just have such an openness and a readiness, and they just want more, because they don't have much in the foreign countries. So anything they can get, they take it and they hold on to it. So it's just amazing. And then there's this one time where normally you have, it's normally you, another American, and a Filipino as an interpreter. But in high schools, they understand English, so normally you don't get an interpreter, or they don't interpret. And this particular day, it was me, and I didn't even have an interpreter. So it's different, because normally the interpreter does the salvation prayer and does all this. So it was just me. I had like 3 classrooms, and it was a little bit nerve-wracking, but I was a vessel, and God worked through me, and it was just an amazing experience. And then another one was, it was towards the last few days of the trip. I was laying in bed in our downtime. I was exhausted just trying to get through this trip, and I was just praying, God, just show me you're here. I want to experience you on a new level. And when I did that, I instantaneously had back pain. So I was like, maybe this is a word of knowledge. I'm going to have to pray for someone with back pain. So that night, for the prayer lines, I was praying and praying, and about halfway through it, I had a very hard time breathing. So I was like, okay, a few people are going to have asthma. So the next 3 people I prayed for had asthma or breathing problems, and they were healed. And then towards the end of the line, one more person came, and I was like, this person has to have back pain. And they said no. So I was like kind of discouraged, like, why did that happen? So right before I was about to leave, I asked my interpreter, do you need prayer for anything? He said, yeah, I have back pain. I was like, there it is. So I prayed for him, and he was healed, and it was just an amazing experience. And I could go on and on, but I mean, we kind of have a time limit, so there you go.
Yeah, I think each of us could probably preach our own sermon, and we'd, have more stories. So if you have questions or want to talk to us, we'll tell you more later. Man, just in the Philippines, your focus and your mindset is just directed towards Jesus, and that's like the only thing you're concerned about. One thing that I took away from it is we were part of the American team. We came from here, but there's people from all over the world that joined us in the Philippines to do this. And we met a Filipino team. They are from the nation. They just gather, and they do what we do, but they do it 9 to 10 months out of the year. So they do every single day they're going into schools, into jails, in the mayor's office, and preaching the gospel and saving all of these people. And they put on the crusades every single night, 9 to 10 months out of the year. And these people have families, they have kids, and they just pick up and leave and go to new places each night. They hit a village and they go to all the main places, and then they just pick up and move on, and that's their entire life. So it was really eye-opening and encouraging to me to think, like Bailey said, well, what are we doing here? If, like, I don't know, you didn't get to see at the end of the video, it shows we were there for 15 days. We did ministry for 11 or 12, and almost 13,000 people were saved. Almost 3,000 people were healed. There's like 49 or more Bible studies started and 3 churches planted. And we did this for 15 days, so I can't imagine the impact that the Filipino team is making. They're doing this 9 to 10 months out of the year. Like, that's just mind-blowing to me. So coming back here, it's definitely, I feel like we are called to bring that fire back to America and think like he said, as the church, we are called to go out and bring people in. We should be growing. In the Bible, it says the church was growing daily, not weekly or monthly or yearly. Like, they didn't just expect a couple people to stumble in and like join the family. We have this amazing family of God. We have the gospel. It's the best story there is, and our goal should be to share it with as many people as we can. So that's something that I learned, and something I encourage all of you with is, like, wherever you are, whatever situation, you don't have to say, hey, can I share a story, and just share the gospel. You can do that. That's what we did a lot of times. Or you can just say, hey, this really cool thing happened at church yesterday, and then just start telling them. And then each time you do that, it's just exposing them to the gospel. And I think in America, we make it so complicated. Like, people are like, well, if I just tell them the gospel, like what happened, what Jesus did, like, how am I even going to convince them to love Jesus? But that's the thing. We're not convincing them to love Jesus. We're just serving as a vessel, a bridge between them and God. It's not us convincing them to love Jesus. It's Jesus working through us and working in them. It's us just opening that door. So it was cool to we'd stand in front of crowds of like hundreds of students our own age, or like just walk up to people's houses, and there's always that fear. You saw pictures of the altar call. There's like hundreds of people surrendering, raising their hands, saying, I want to accept Jesus. And you're like, how in the heck could this be real? Like, what did we do? What did we say to convince all these people? But it wasn't us. It was God, and it was the power of the gospel. And so I think, man, I could go on for a long time. But we did this every single day. We were going school to school to doing different ministries all day, and it was completely exhausting because, I mean, going up there, it's like I wouldn't know what to say, or, yeah, like I've been saying, I thought I would have to convince people to love Jesus. I wouldn't know what to say. I wouldn't know how they would respond, or, like, yeah, just be nervous to talk in front of that many people. But the crazy thing was, like, I don't think any of us would say that we were super afraid or nervous to get up on stage and just go for it. Like, there's times where our team leader would be standing on the stage and they're like talking. They're like, okay, and now Makara's going to come up and share this with you. And I'm like, alrighty. So you just walk up and you do it, and you just feel complete peace because you know God's working through you. So just encouragement to you is just to always try to live in a spiritual mindset, so you're aware of what God's trying to do around you, stories that you can share, and healings. Like, people would come up with headaches or things, and just believing, and most of them were healed. Even something that was cool is if, say in church, for example, if Pastor Jason says there's people for prayer in the back, like, normally maybe 1 or 2 people will go receive prayer, but in the Philippines, after they accept Jesus, like, they don't have to stay, but we encourage them and we say, if you have any problems, family, financial, sickness, like anything, we want to pray for you, and God wants to work powerfully in your life, and he wants to heal you. And pretty much everyone at the crusade stays and receives prayer. Like, we have lines of 50 people each that we just pray through. Like, I don't know, it's encouraging to always be willing and ready to receive what God has for you, and just to allow him to work through you. So yeah, I'll stop now. Okay. um, so I didn't even talk about any healings that I saw, but one of them was, there's this girl, she came up and her eyes were closed and she was like oozing something. I don't know. But her mom was explaining that she was in so much pain and she couldn't open her eyes without being in pain. Like, she wasn't blind, but her eyes were just closed and she couldn't do anything about it. So this girl was shy and she was like holding her mom, like she wouldn't look at me. So I prayed for her, and I was asking the mom, can you like check and see? But nothing happened, so I prayed again, and then same thing. And so this time I prayed against like shame or fear or anxiety or anything that this girl might be feeling, that she wouldn't look at me. So I prayed again, prayed for healing, and then she kind of lightened up. She still wouldn't look at me, and the mom just kind of walked by, and the interpreter was like, okay, next. It's like, I was just kind of disappointed, because it's like, Jesus, I know you've healed the blind. You opened their eyes in the Bible. Like, I know you can do it now. I want to see it. So I was just discouraged, but I continued praying for people, and then after, they come back into our line, and they like exchange it's like an information card for the Book of Hope. So she came up with her mom, and I kind of like bent down and tried to see like what she was doing, and her eyes were completely open, and she was reading the book that I just had handed her. So yeah, amen. Like yeah, and then I told my mom, it was kind of funny. You would get in the car after crusades being so excited about all the crazy things you saw and witnessed, and you're ready to share with all of them. This happened to me so many times. You'd get in the car and you're like, guys, guess what? And then all of them say, guys, we all saw blind eyes open. It's like, oh, yeah, me too. But it was like the normal thing to see all these crazy things. Like, one night, 4 of us saw shoulders like dislocated and broken. Like, all of them were moving them around, hips, knees. There's demons casted out. There was just crazy things happened, but it wasn't like, it wasn't special. It was like, this is who God is and this is what he does. Like, this isn't a unique once in a lifetime. This is a one and done deal. Like, it happens all the time and through anyone and for anyone. So yeah.
Just while I'm passing this, what she said is, most of you in here, like, we didn't do anything special. Like, yes, we went to the Philippines, but all we had was a willingness to pray over people. If you guys have accepted Jesus, each and every one of you have the exact same Jesus that we have that healed these people. So it's nothing special that we did. It's not, yeah. So you guys can do everything that we just said and even more. You guys can pray for and see healed. So yeah.
So this was actually my 4th trip to the Philippines with this same organization that we go with. But the thing that I want to share about, 8 years ago was my first time going, and I was the one that always wanted to go on missions trips that were about construction and doing work, because that's what I do every day. But 8 years ago, I felt the Lord tugging on my heart to go do an evangelism outreach, and that scared me to death. I mean, for me to speak in front of a group of people back then was not happening, period. But because I wanted to be obedient, I said, okay, Lord, I'll go ahead and go. And, that was a life changer, an absolute life changer. Bailey's been 3 times, but Tyler and Makara, this was their first time going. And as a dad, especially knowing that what it was like and what it feels like to speak in front of people and to get rid of that, that fear, I just want to say that it blows my mind to see the willingness of them and to just step up and do the things that they were asked to do every single time. Both Makara and Tyler had an opportunity on Sunday to either give the message to a church of people they don't even know or to share their testimony, which giving the message to me would be way scarier than sharing my testimony, because I know my testimony well. But both of them had an opportunity. So if it were me at that age, I'd say, I'll do the testimony for sure. Both of them said, no, I want to preach in the church. And both of them did. And it was incredible. And I wish that I could have had that experience at a younger age. And so I guess I just encourage you guys. I know there's people in here for sure that are scared to death to speak in front of people. And just giving it to God and just saying, you know what, Lord, whatever you want from me, I'll go ahead and do it. And going on this trip, that's what it does. It still stretches me each time. I'll share a couple quick stories of just some highlights for me. The first one is, if we're not doing school ministry throughout the day and going to schools, which we go to numerous schools a day. The biggest high school we went to had 3,000 students, and they actually held a general assembly for us to share the gospel in front of this entire school. It's just mind-blowing to see it happen. But this particular day, we were doing door-to-door evangelism, outreach, and they said, okay, we're going to go to an area that's way out, just a real isolated area out in the jungle, basically. And I'm like, yes, anything about adventure I love doing. And so we head out there. The driver in my vehicle was, he was the pastor that actually was my interpreter for doing the door-to-door. And he told the rest of the team, everyone went off in their own directions, we need to be back to the vehicle by a certain point. And so we had done 2 houses and spent quite a bit of time at each house, and we were already out of time. And I said, man, I just feel like we're supposed to go get one more house. And he goes, well, good news is I'm the driver, and no one's going to leave without us. So he goes, if you feel the Lord is tugging on you, let's go. And so we started walking. We're going along this river, like in a jungle area, and all of a sudden we see these cables going across, and it's a cable bridge going about 150 yards across this little canyon with a river. And I'm like, that's where we're supposed to go. And so he goes, let's go. So we're leading the way, and we get over to the other side, and we come to the first house, and there's nobody there. And I'm already finding myself sort of discouraged. I'm like, Lord, I know I heard you say go. And for someone not to be in a house in the Philippines, like, there's somebody always at a house everywhere you go. So we go to house number 2. There's nobody there. The dogs are barking, the goats are making noise, but no people. And so I'm like, well, what do we do? And he goes, let's go to one more. And we come up to the 3rd house, and we couldn't see anybody in the front, but we come around the back, and the house is like elevated on stilts, and there's about 10 people all huddled under this house. And I didn't know what they were doing at the time, but they were playing bingo. All the people from the 1st and 2nd house were at the 3rd house, which, my faith was sort of tanking. Like, I was like, man. And God knew that we only had one more house to go to, but that one house, he was going to have everybody there. And so they stopped. They literally cleared their bingo table and handed us their chairs, and all stood up. And me and the other American we were with, we shared the gospel with them. We prayed with them. And then the Filipino pastor that we were with led them, all 9 or 10 of them, in the sinner's prayer on the spot. And it just made me realize that sometimes we think that we're missing God, or we didn't hear him right, or whatever. And yeah, that gratification came to me quicker than it does to some of us, because sometimes it's a long journey that the Lord has us on. But if you're hearing from the Lord, just keep pressing in and keep pressing on, and he'll show you. One of the healing times for me, I'm going to share all the times where my faith was low, I guess. Okay. Even though we saw so much happening the whole time. There was a young man that came up to me the second to the last night that we were there, and I asked him, his name. One of the things that I don't know if anyone said, but I just want to tell you guys that what we do when we have these prayer lines, we ask every person that comes forward what they want prayer for, what their name is, and then we ask them to test it. If it's an immobility problem that they can actually show us what you're able to do, the range of motion that you have, because we want to see the miracle too. We want to see what God does and the touch that he has, even though you can see it in their face. The second they're healed, their face lights up, and you know God has done something. But this guy walks up to me just stone-faced, like, looks like he's mad, actually. And I ask him, and he says that he was in a motorcycle accident 2 years ago, and he jacked up his shoulder blade and his shoulder, his rotator cuff. And so I asked him to show me how much you can lift it without pain. He showed me. I asked him how far can you go with it? What's the maximum you can go and not tolerate it anymore? And he shows me. So immediately I'm like, okay, this guy's going to need to be prayed over 2 or 3 times, just because. But I don't know. That's what I was feeling. I'm going to have to fight for this. And which is so foolish, because we should just pray in faith, believing right off the bat. But anyways, God humbled me, because the second I prayed for the guy with very few words, his face lights up, and the guy's like giving me a huge hug, saying, thank you. And so we tell them at the very beginning, that this is God releasing his power through us. The Lord is the one healing you, not the Americans, because we want them to know that's super important. But he's hugging me, and then afterwards he got back in my line, and he's giving me 5, and he's all excited. He's swinging his arm around left and right, and so yeah, that was really cool. How much time do we have, Jason? 0? Okay. So we're going to end this, but let me share one last thing. So this next year we're going to have an opportunity to go back in February. So just keep that in your prayers, and maybe God will be tugging on your heart to go, and you guys can talk to me anytime about that. And now Jason's going to do what he's got to do.
Hey guys, stay. So here's what we want to do. So we're just going to worship. There's that song, Good, Good Father. We sang it once. We want to sing it again, because really this is what it's all about. That's what missions is all about, just telling people about the good, good Father. That's it. That's it. And that's what they're saying. Anybody can do that. If you're a Christian, you have a good, good Father. It doesn't matter if it doesn't matter if your earthly father was crappy. Your heavenly Father is a good, good Father. He loves you, and that's the message we're sharing. That's it. And if he's a good, good Father, then that means he's going to meet the needs of his kids.